good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's Araphel coming at you with a build video. This isn't something that I normally do. I've made one build video on my YouTube channel, and the result was people copying it and zerging me down with it. But considering the fact that current builds and the current meta is going to be changing drastically here in a month with subclassing, I figured why not and just go ahead and spill some of the secret sauce for the people of Cyrodiil to enjoy. So lock in, strap in, and follow along. So let's start with the sets we're wearing. Let's start with the bread and the butter. We are wearing the Master's Battle Axe on the front bar. It's going to be Nirn with a Berserker Enchant. This is super important. Preferably get it perfected. I don't have it perfected. Sue me, who cares. Back bar. Ice Staff of Rushing Agony. You could also do a Restoration Staff of Rushing Agony if you'd like. I've tried both. I just like the block mitigation on the Ice Staff, but the Resto Staff gives considerably better mag sustain when you heavy attack. Hey, this is future Araphel here, editing Araphel. I decided to make a small change. I ended up putting another Berserker Enchant on my back bar Rushing Agony weapon, and it's because of the way that I tend to go in for this combo. So I'll have my forward momentum up, I'll go Cloak, hit Race Against Time, Light Attack, Lotus Fan. Now there's a 20% chance for that Light Attack to proc the Berserker Enchant on the back bar. That way we go in with the Berserker enchantment up rather than only getting it from the cleave at the end of our bomb. I hope that makes sense. Let's carry on. If you're not familiar with Rushing Agony, go ahead and read it as I scroll down here. Pause the video if you need. But if you're not already getting zerged down by Rush of Agony in Cyrodiil, I don't know what you're doing. Okay, next up, Balorgh. Our armor weights are 1 heavy, 4 medium, and 2 light. So we have a heavy Balorgh's helmet, a medium Rush of Agony chest, medium Balorgh's shoulders, so 2-piece Balorgh for your monster helm, and Vicious Death is the other set, obviously. So we're rocking Titanic Cleave, the Master's 2H, we're rocking Rush of Agony on the back bar, we're rocking Vicious Death on 2 of the body pieces and the 3 jewelry. And that is the sets. I'll scroll down through all this so you can see the traits and the enchants. I have 2 divines on there, and for some reason the legs are Impen or reinforced. I don't know, probably the legs and the chest are better off being Impen than reinforced. But that's just what I have. And the jewelry is triple infused weapon and spell damage. We are rocking the Shadow Mundus for the potions, and food, actually we're using the Crown Fortifying Meals, or I guess I don't have any on me, but Bewitched Sugar Skulls are also okay to use. They give a little bit of extra health recovery and a tiny bit of max stats. Not a huge difference. You can just use cheap tri-stat food. Like, it's not a big deal. We're also a vampire, so the health recovery doesn't matter all that much. You can run stage 3 if you want. It's really not going to make you any tankier. I usually just run stage 2 vampire for this passive right here, Strike from the Shadows. When you leave Sneak, Invisibility, or Mist form, weapon and spell damage is increased by 300 for 6 seconds. So I'll go over the rotation of the bomb and everything when it's all said and done, but basically you're going to want to cloak before you rush in so you get this buff from the vampire skill line. It's a lot of extra damage for free, and it synergizes very, very well with Nightblade's Shadowy Disguise skill. And moving on, so I've gone over food, I've gone over the Mundus. For potions, you're going to want to be using, you can use Tri-Stat if you want, but what you really want to use is Magicka Immovables. I like the mag health E-moves. You could also do like something other than the health line. I just like the health personally. You're gonna pop these before you go in for a bomb, and this build is built off of re-rolling ultimate. So the idea is if you rush in, get a bomb, and it's 5 kills, the idea is you're gonna get all of your resources back, and you're gonna get another soul tether, so that you're gonna be able to rush of agony back in 8 seconds later and do it all over again. It's supposed to be just rush and bomb, rush and bomb, rush and bomb. But it's very squishy, so it doesn't always work out. But when it does work, as you guys saw in that clip in the beginning, it fucking works, okay? So, we got all that out the way. We got our sets, we got our food, we got the potions, we got Vamp Stage, we got Mundus. Let's go over the skills on our bar. Front bar, we are rocking the Shattering Banner. This is a scribing skill called Banner Bearer, okay? If you don't have scribing, go and do yourself a favor and unlock it. If you don't have the DLC for scribing, don't worry. I believe in 1 month, scribing is coming to the base game, so you won't have to pay for it. Great news. So, the Shattering Banner. What you want on it, let me head to my scribing altar here so I can show you guys exactly. The Banner Bearer. So what we have is multi-target, increases damage done with area of effect attacks by 6%. All of our attacks on this build are area of effect attacks. It's going to be buffing all our damage by 6%. Cavalier's Charge, increase your weapon and spell damage by 6 for every 1% bonus movement speed, up to a max of 450. We do have a considerable amount of bonus movement speed from the 4 medium armor, as well as when you cast Race Against Time, we'll give you an additional 30%, which is from Major Expedition, for I believe 4 seconds. So you're going to want to cast that before you go in for your bomb as well. It's kind of like Cloak, Race Against Time, Lotus Fan, Switch Bars, Soul Tether. I'll show you guys the whole thing, but I'm letting you know now just so you know what to expect out of this build to maximize its damage. So we have the Cavalier's Charge giving us additional weapon and spell damage. For the affix script, the 3rd script, we're doing Minor Courage. Okay, you can also do Minor Berserk, which is arguably a little bit better, which increase your damage done by 5% flat. But we are stacking weapon and spell damage here, and we are getting Minor Berserk from another source. Okay. So now that we have the Banner Bearer out the way, we have that on both bars. You have to double bar this skill. You are sacrificing 2 skills from your skill line to get this massive, massive boost in damage. Okay. So, finishing off with the front bar. Next skill is Camo Hunter. It's going to give us our Major Savagery and Prophecy, which we are already getting from Shadowy Disguise. This skill also gives it to us on both bars, but Camo Hunter gives us Minor Berserk for 5 seconds after dealing critical damage from an enemy's flank. Now when you Soul Tether, you're dealing damage in an area of effect, and most likely you're going to be hitting someone's back or sides, because as long as you're not hitting them in the front, you're hitting them from the sides or the back, that is considered the flank, and it's going to proc Minor Berserk, okay? So you have Minor Berserk on top of all the extra damage from the banner. Next is your spammable, pretty much. It's called Brawler, Cleave, and this is buffed by the Master's 2H on our front bar. Next up we have Forward Momentum. I guess you could also use the other morph, Rally. It just lasts for half the duration, and it's really hard on your stamina, but you can use it if you want. Try it out. I really recommend using Forward Momentum for the longer duration. Next up we have Grim Focus, Merciless Resolve. You could also use the stamina morph of this skill because it's going to give you more weapon and spell damage when it's stacked up than this Magicka morph is. And last but not least, we have Soul Tether. This is our main AoE ultimate that we'll be using to blow people the fuck up. Pretty straightforward. It's gonna heal you when you cast it, as well as do a ton of damage. Now, the thing with Soul Tether is, when you're rushing into a stack of enemies, see how at the top it says it has a 0.5 second cast time, which means you're locked out of blocking during this duration. And as a result, will often lead to a horrible, horrible death. You'll be in a stack, you'll get a fat pull, and you're just dead mid-tether. Okay, it happens. You just have to be really sneaky and be careful how you play this. That's all it really comes down to. If you're seen, you're pretty much dead, as with most Nightblade bombers, okay? Real quick, before I move on to the back bar, I want to address the Camo Hunter situation. If you're considering using this as a flex spot, which it absolutely can be, switched out with Mass Hysteria for a fear or something like that, the reason we have that is because under Fighters Guild, if we look at these Fighters Guild passives, Slayer increases your weapon and spell damage by 3% for each Fighters Guild ability slotted. Now, our weapon and spell damage on this build gets absurdly high. I'm talking like after you pop a Balorgh, it gets over 8,000. So this buff right here is considerable. So just by having that slotted and along with the Minor Berserk, you're gaining a ton of extra damage, as well as gaining extra ultimate when you kill an enemy. 3 ultimate whenever you kill an enemy doesn't seem like much, but when you consider everything at play here, which you'll see on the back bar, the amount of ultimate that we get when we kill things is crazy, and it's what allows this build to truly shine. So, we're done with our front bar. Let's go over the skills one more time. Shattering Banner, Camo Hunter, Brawler, Forward Momentum, Merciless Resolve, Soul Tether. Moving on to the back bar, Shattered Banner, once again. Healthy Offering. This is unfortunately our only source of survivability. It's a very strong burst heal. Just use it when your health gets low. Pretty simple. Race Against Time. Remember I mentioned earlier, for the combo, you want to use your Shadowy Disguise, which is here. You're going to want to Race Against Time towards the stack, so you have Major Expedition, which is going to give you a bunch of weapon and spell damage off of Cavalier's Charge from the Shattering Banner. Then you're going to want to Lotus Fan in to proc Rush of Agony. Then you're going to want to switch bars, hit the Soul Tether, and cleave. Usually, if there's a squishy in there, they'll just die to the Soul Tether alone and VD everybody. But you can also dry pull without an ultimate, like super squishy stacks, and just cleave and they'll die. Don't expect that to work on like a full 40k health ball group stacking like 20k of shields. It's not going to work. I'm going to tell you right now, okay? I mean, this build is for killing shitters solo. It's not meant to solo bomb ball groups, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. Back to the back bar setup. Race Against Time. It's also increasing our critical damage by 10%, which this is a critical damage build. We hit about 72% critical damage fully buffed, if I remember correctly. Lotus Fan. Gap Close to proc Rush of Agony. And it also applies Minor Vulnerability in an AoE to the enemies that are hit. So that's an additional 5% damage that we're dealing. Shadowy Disguise, very straightforward. You go invisible, and you're proccing that Vampire passive, Strike from the Shadows, that we talked about earlier. So we're getting a lot of weapon and spell damage. Now, here's what's interesting. We have Soul Harvest on the back bar. We're not going to be using this skill ever, okay? We have this for the slottable buff. While slotted on either bar, any time you kill an enemy, you gain 10 ultimate. Combine that with Fighters Guild, Banish the Wicked, generate 3 ultimate whenever you kill an enemy. We're now generating 13 ultimate whenever we kill an enemy. Now, top that on with Combat Frenzy from the Assault skill line. Generate 20 ultimate when you kill an enemy player, okay? So, between those 3 things, we're generating 33 ultimate every time we kill a player. Now, if we look at how much Soul Tether costs. It costs 155 ultimate. So we can do some quick math and we can see that if we kill 5 people in a bomb, we will immediately re-roll a Soul Tether and we'll be able to go for another bomb. Okay, it's very strong, very powerful setup. As long as you can stay alive, that's the key. It is a squishy Nightblade bomber. Hey, this is Editing Araphel once again, me from the future. I'm coming back while I'm rewatching what I recorded, and I'm just coming to chime in to say that there is another form of ulti generation that the Nightblade has. Under the Siphoning skill line, we have the Catalyst passive, which gives 20 ultimate upon drinking a potion. Also, in regards to general survivability on a Nightblade, there's another passive under Shadow. Here we go, Shadow Barrier. Casting a Shadow ability grants you major resolve for 12 seconds. So we get 14 seconds because of our 1 heavy armor of major resolve, which is a very important armor buff. To mitigate the squishiness of this character, we have to try to keep this armor buff up if we're getting attacked. If there's a competent player that finds you, unfortunately you might just die if you can't rat sneak away. But Shadowy Disguise is our 1 shadow ability on this build. So if you cast it every 14 seconds to keep your major resolve up, it should help with survivability a little bit. See, unbuffed, we're sitting at almost 17,000 spell and 15,000 physical resistance. That is very low. Okay, when we pop Shadowy Disguise, you can see that it goes up to almost 23 and 21.3 thousand. Still extremely low. We also don't have a way to get minor resolve on this build, which would add another 3,000 resistance. This is a damage bomber build. If you want to add those things into your build, you have to sacrifice damage. For example, we could add Resolving Vigor on our back bar slot instead of the banner, but then we lose that considerable amount of damage that the banner is giving us, and it's often quite needed. Okay, just things to consider. Now, let's go over champion points. Champion points are pretty important. Okay, blue, we're going full damage. Fighting Finesse for crit damage. Master at Arms, direct damage. All of our damage that we're doing is direct damage. Area of Effect damage from Biting Aura. Again, all of our damage is this. And Occult Overload. This is pretty important. If people are blocking when you pull on a stack, Occult Overload will do Oblivion damage to them through block. There is no way to mitigate Oblivion damage. 0 ways. Very, very strong CP. Okay, make sure you have this slotted. Red Tree. This is where things get interesting. Okay, you want Celerity. You want to be fast. You always want to have Celerity in open world. We want to be fast. That's our main way of staying alive. Just be a little squirrel, okay? Bastion. This is damage. Increase effectiveness of damage shields and damage against shielded enemies. This is going to buff the shield that we get from Brawler when we cleave. It's also going to deal more damage to shielded enemies, okay? Very, very important. Now, these last 2 red CPs are a little different. They're not usually used in PvP. They're more common in, like, solo PvE shit. But here we are. Bloody Renewal. Restore 1,500 stamina whenever you kill an enemy. Siphoning Spells. Restore 1,500 magicka whenever you kill an enemy. So, that's why we're running Tri-Staff Mood. The goal is, at very low recovery, have a ton of damage from the banner, which also lowers our recovery by a bunch. When we're fully buffed and everything, I think we have like 600 recovery. I mean, it's awful. It's so bad. But as long as we are getting kills, we are getting all of those resources back, as well as our ultimate, okay? Do you guys see where I'm going with this? How this is very powerful, okay? This is the secret sauce, yo. Don't tell nobody, alright? Alright, let's show off some stats, and let's show off the combo. Let's start off with some stats. So, with all the knowledge that we have about this build, we're going to apply it to maximize our damage, okay? So, Ice Staff Rushing Agony has our weapon damage enchantment on it, like I mentioned earlier. By proccing that, it's going to give us 348 weapon and spell damage. With this Ice Staff, you have a 20% chance to proc this. You can guarantee a proc if you haven't procced it within 10 seconds if you heavy attack. You can see Berserker right there. A fully charged heavy attack will guarantee the proc. The issue with guaranteeing a proc of Berserker, if you're in stealth, this was recently changed. Let's go hidden. There we go. See, the moment I started charging that heavy attack up, it brings me out of cloak. It didn't used to be that way. It used to only bring you out of cloak when you finished casting. Finished channeling the heavy attack, that is. So, we are going to take the risk of having it proc 20% by just weaving a light attack before we go in for our combo. Just weave that in, just a little light attack before you load spam. So, to fully buff, we want to put up our banner. And let's think about everything we know about our banner. Increased damage done with area of effects, that's standard. Now, Cavalier's Charge is what we need to know. Increase your weapon spell damage by 6 for every 1% bonus movement speed. How do we get more bonus movement speed? We cast Race Against Time for 30% additional movement speed for 4 seconds. Okay? So it's pretty important to have this up when we're going in for our bomb, because it's going to give us a considerable amount of extra damage. So we're sitting at a smooth 28.8k magicka, 28.3k health, and almost 20k stamina. So we have a healthy amount of each resource. To fully buff up before each bomb, the rotation that you need to do: have your forward momentum up, hit your cloak, hit your Race Against Time, light attack, Lotus Fan, tether, complete. And for a moment there, we were sitting at so much damage. 7.3k weapon and spell damage after a 500 Balorgh. I think I saw it up to 8,000. And keep in mind, this is without continuous attack, which you may likely have in Cyrodiil. I recommend getting a resource capture so you can have continuous attack for those 10 minutes. Very strong buff in PvP. Alright, let's go over what everything in the combo that we're buffing up our player with does in extreme detail. I want to make sure everyone understands why we're doing what we're doing, and we're not just doing it willy-nilly, okay? So, first things first, forward momentum. When we cast this skill, it gives us Major Brutality and Sorcery. That is 20% additional weapon and spell damage on our stat sheet. Okay, huge buff. When we look at our stats with this up, it is 5.7k. Let's say 5.8k. Alright, when we have that up. Now, if we take the banner off and just use forward momentum, you'll see we lost almost 600 weapon and spell damage just from having the banner up. So the banner, very strong, okay? We want to make sure we have that banner with the Minor Courage and Cavalier's Charge. Ton of extra damage. So, to add even more damage on top of that, we are going to hit Race Against Time, run forward, and check our stat sheet again. Now we're up to 6,029 weapon and spell damage, because Cavalier's Charge is getting buffed by that Major Expedition. You'll see as soon as Major Expedition runs out, our weapon and spell damage on our stat sheet goes right back down. Okay, so it's a very short window that we have that extra damage, right? Now, to add even more damage on top of this, make sure Race, make sure that's forward momentum is up, hit Race, go Cloak, come out of Cloak, check your weapon and spell damage again, and it was what it was supposed to be for just a second. Let me do that again. 6.4k when we go Cloak, okay? Now, if we want to absolutely 1000% maximize it, which our weapon and spell damage isn't always going to be this high because we're not always guaranteeing a Berserker enchant. But what we would do is fully charge a heavy, this, Cloak, check our stat sheet, 6.9k weapon and spell damage almost, for a very short amount of time. But I'm just showing you guys how high this build has the potential to go up for our weapon and spell damage. And on top of the weapon and spell damage being extremely high, whenever we hit Race Against Time, not only is Cavalier's Charge buffing that, we're also getting Minor Force, which is 10% crit damage. And if we look here under Advanced Stats, we have 72% crit damage. If you are running 0 Divines on your gear, it will be 70%, which is considerable. That is a huge amount of critical damage. And that's the build, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. And like, subscribe, leave a comment. Maybe I missed something. Maybe there's something I could have done better. I'm going to be making a few more build videos this month before this final patch comes out. Not final patch, but the subclassing patch. Because it's going to be a considerable change, and I want some people to maybe enjoy some of the builds that I've been enjoying before they kind of go away forever with the meta really changing up as far as subclassing goes. So, again, thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.